then I think as we hit more and more crisis, more and more people are desperate just to wake up from the nightmare that is the 3D reality. Well, it's like the Matrix. It really is the Matrix film, and that's why it really hit a zeitgeist nerve, the Matrix, because a lot of people do actually are now recognizing that we are in some form of Matrix, and actually there's a harmony and a much more peaceful and experiential way of living that's beyond this Matrix, and very much this Matrix is the illusion, and actual real reality is something that we need to step into through conscious evolution, and ayahuasca is there to help us at this time reach that place, because people can reach it without it, but it helps. It's a helping hand. However, you need to be ready, you need to have prepared, you need to, in order to really get the most out of ayahuasca, you need to do the preparation. So a lot of people are taking ayahuasca and they might be getting some of it, but in order to really get the full expanse of an ayahuasca shift, you need to put the preparation in to get yourself to that point where you're ready. But you're always going to get people who want to take ayahuasca because it's the next big fad that's out there, and that's fine, everything for everyone. But if you're really serious about taking ayahuasca to shift your consciousness, then you need to wait for the right teacher, and then the right teacher will appear to enable you to take you to that level. So it's all levels of consciousness.
For people who are at home experimenting with indigenous shamanism, shall we say, how would you just say the ayahuasca, which is DMT, differs from, say, magic mushrooms, which go over here, which can also take you to those levels of consciousness, but in a slightly different way? So how would you compare that?
Well, I would say, number one, ayahuasca is not DMT, and I want to clear that up straight away. Ayahuasca is nothing like DMT, and is a big mistake in the market in the world at the moment, even comparing ayahuasca to DMT. I really like to clear that out right now. Ayahuasca is a brew that is made up of a number of many things, and DMT happens to be the psychotropic chemical. It just happens to be that, but without everything else that's put into that brew wouldn't be ayahuasca. So, and actually ayahuasca, the ayahuasca vine, the Banisteriopsis caapi, doesn't contain the DMT. It's a psychotropic plant, the sharuna, that contains the DMT. And what happens is that your stomach has MAO inhibitors, and they block. If you take these plants, they block the DMT.
Monoamine oxidase.
Yeah, so what you do is you add the vine that blocks the MAO inhibitors to enable the psychotropic plants to release the DMT inside your system in order to then digest it, and then it takes you on a 4 or 5 hour journey. But included in that brew is tobacco smoke, from the mapacho, which is the sacred cigarette of the Amazon. Then you're getting saliva. The shaman will spit his saliva in there. You're getting incantations, icaros. It's a brew, and you brew it for 8 hours, and there's a lot goes into an ayahuasca brew. And it becomes a medicine. It's certainly not DMT, what you smoke in a pipe and have a 15-minute crazy experience into the next levels is something utterly different. It's like comparing hemp to marijuana. It's really different. And ayahuasca is a journeying, visioning medicine, and you need to be prepared in order to really get the most out of it, or to go on a journey with a professional shaman. I would never suggest anyone buying it over the internet and then trying to take it. It's just going to miss the point completely.
Has to be the right setting. Over in the
you need to take it with a trained ayahuasca shaman to really get the most out of ayahuasca. Ayahuasca is a plant, and you have to be trained to really be able to administer it, because it has a very powerful karmic connection, and it can lead you into consciousness, but it also has side effects if you're not ready for it, or you're not prepared enough for it. So in order to get the most out of your experience, you want to be prepared and ready, and allow the teacher to call you. That's what I would say. That's my advice anyway.
While we're on, actually, I suppose this is a useful enough segue into the whole issue of marijuana. there's apart from the obvious recreational use of it, there's significant medical benefits to be had out of the marijuana plant itself. Where are you with that whole side of it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's a Rick Simpson Run from the Cure on YouTube very clearly shows that if you apply marijuana oil to moles and malignant cancers, they reduce massively and actually get cured. Marijuana is absolutely fantastic for multiple sclerosis sufferers, for people with anxiety. It actually can have quite a calm effect. If people aren't eating, it can make you hungry. And there's loads of benefits to marijuana, and very soon you'll start be seeing cannabis-based medicines on the market. The problem is that you can't, like the song said, you can't patent a plant.
Yeah.
So it's not in the pharmaceutical interest for us to be growing marijuana and utilising it on a local level for healing, because it would Is it in their best interest to get a patent where they can go and do experiments on the THC, extract it from the marijuana plant, create a whole chemical-based compound around it, and then sell it for a lot of money on the marketplace, and that's what's going to happen. But this is because the pharmaceutical companies at the moment are the ones in power. But very soon, when that all crumbles, then hopefully we'll get back to actually administering our own medicines to ourselves, which will be a lot cheaper and a lot more effective.
Absolutely. Well, from the food side of it, Codex Alimentarius is an issue that we've covered on this channel before. Earlier on you were mentioning how difficult it is to get into the food marketplace, if you like. Is that a lot to do with the degree of regulation that's imposed on you because it's a food?
No, actually, it's just because of the competition out there with regards to big brands and advertising and marketing, and people just feeling comfortable with brand, cornflakes and basics. We're not a country that's massively exploitative in our food tastes. So that's more of it than anything else. And the financial costs of importing seed from abroad, the euro per pound rate. I mean, it's basic business stuff that that makes things quite challenging financially. The thing about Codex Alimentarius and the good thing about hemp is that it's not considered a supplement, it's actually considered a food. So if Codex Alimentarius does kick off, which it could very well do, I mean, the things are in place for it to kick off if it wants to. That's the scary thing about Codex Alimentarius, is that nothing's happened yet, but the fact of the matter is all the pieces are in place, so if they want to just call it up, they can. Hemp isn't included, because it's not a supplement.
Rebecca, if I could just interject quickly with the point there. We had a guest on a couple of weeks back who's called Scott Tips. He fortunately is on our side and he thinks the way we are, and he kind of infiltrated very cleverly before they shut the doors the Codex Alimentarius group. So whenever they hold meetings, this guy goes along there and he basically tells us whatever's discussed in the locked room. And there's a website called, what was it, the NHF.com. The NHF.com. If you want to know what's happening with Codex, you look.
So what does he say?
Sorry?
What does he say was very briefly, can you just say what was his conclusion then at the moment with Codex Alimentarius?
Well, essentially it was what you've just summed it up as, that the machine was in place, and any time they wanted to turn it on, they could.
Yeah, they can, yeah.
The biggest issue at the moment, I suppose, with that is that I have no idea where they're going with it at the moment. I don't know whether they're doing away with food labelling and all this kind of thing. It seems to be a bit of a mystery where it's all going. But as you say, the balls are all lined up over the pockets, just ready to be potted whenever it's done.
Yeah. Have you heard of those crisps you call Pringles?
Yeah.
The words Codex Alimentarius are listed on the ingredients on the back of those, so it must already be.
Oh, it is. It's definitely started. Definitely, Codex Alimentarius has been happening, insidiously for years, and it's just how deep it goes, really. But like I said, hemp is exempt because it's not a supplement, it's a food, and Codex Alimentarius can't actually affect food. It's more the supplement market, which gives it to the hands of the pharmaceutical companies, and so you're not going to be able to get, your nice little local herbalist won't be able to be making any nice little herbs for you. It's all going to be completely controlled by the pharmaceuticals. But I wonder whether nature's really going to allow it to get to that point. Well, we'll just have to see how it plays out. I trust in something happening before all of that happens.
Well, yeah. We could argue that it's happening now in that we're having this conversation and getting the word out like that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, the truth is stranger than fiction, so anything that we see in the movies, you can be sure is has a reflection in real life. I mean, I think that's why Avatar and Lord of the Rings and all these kind of and all these movies that are bringing in the message of Mother Earth and nature and the importance of sustainability really touching a chord with people and really touching the psyche, because we all know it. We're all we're a part of nature. We're not apart from it. We are a part of it, and the natural flow. So if an animal becomes extinct, we feel it as a species on a very deep soul level, because we're stewards on this planet. That's our whole role as humans, is to be stewarding the planet and tending it for future generations, as well as for us to live a very nice and peaceful life. And unfortunately, there is a yin and a yang, and we're going into the yang, which has been very kind of male dominated, and we're reaching the crux of I think the shift between, it's got as far as it can go and it has to shift, but we are the generation to be part of that shift. And that's why the Chinese always said, may you live in interesting times. If there was ever a time to be alive right now, being a 60s, 70s and 80s child is a very powerful time to be alive right now, because this is where we can do the most change. We can change anything that we want.
We live in the time that the ancient Mayans prophesied as the dissolving of the veil, when the truth has become apparent.
But also, when was it that a woman can set up her own business, get her own funding, have her own bank account? I'm totally independent. I mean, I could go on the internet and I can find a number of businesses that can help me on the cheapest price. The internet has made it all possible, and that's why right now anything can happen. It's a really magical time, and this is a time where it really works as a global connection, because what we're doing here in England can be heard all over the world, and people can come together, and really it's the power of community, and it's the power of this one voice, of people rising up with one voice, that can really shift things. I mean, for example, in Germany, after Brent Spar, that Brent Spar was the rig in the North Sea, and they wanted to dismantle it, and there was a huge outcry in Germany, and they boycotted Shell, and it almost went down in a week. Shell almost went bankrupt in Germany in a week because it was boycotted. That is how powerful we can be as a one voice. We can actually change policy, we can change politics, and we can stop companies acting without any environmental or social conscience. We can do that, but everyone's just separated and alone, and it's all about your neighbour being a terrorist. I mean, that's what they want. They want to create as much disharmony among the communities as possible, because they know that's where the power is. So that's what they're trying to take away at the moment, is this power of community and this feeling of being part of a community. So then you have a lone gunman and everyone just freaks out and doesn't go out of their houses, and this is all played on rather than the whole need for community connection.
Which again brings us back to the notion of hemp being a possible community-based industry, in that it can add towards rebuilding those community ties. If you can have a self-contained industry out of a small community, then a community will develop, even if there wasn't one already.
Yeah, you've got it, and exactly, and actually AMARU is in the South American mythology the first female snake that came down and birthed local communities within the Amazon, and set up local communities, and that's where AMARU came from. It came from my time in Machu Picchu and the Amazon, and very much into having lived in a community that was self-sustaining, which was living with the shaman in his village, and seeing how community really worked, and recognizing that this is what we'd have to go back to in order to survive and thrive and get beyond where we're going to.